The journey of a servant to becoming one of the most successful entrepreneur in Bangalore is immoral and irrelevant. However, it is the Men Booker Prize winner 2008, and it is definitely a good read and you can't skip a page if you are reading through it. However, before beginning with the summary of this video, let me tell you my country is not all about what is written in this book. This is a work of fiction. Let's get started. Let us begin on day 1 in school. The teacher made all the boys to line up and then he asked their names so that he can write it down on the register. Munna. What? That's your real name? That's all I have got, sir. Did your mother name you? She's very ill, sir. She lied in the bed and spews blood. She's got no time to name me. And your father? He's a rickshaw puller, sir. He's got no time to name me. Don't you have granny, aunts, uncles? They have got no time either. The teacher turned aside and spat a jet of red pan splash the ground of the classroom. So that's where we have a child whose name literally means just the name of any boy. Munna. Munna can literally be translated to a boy. It's like a nickname, and to write it on the register, then the teacher says that, well, it's up to me then, isn't it? He passed his hand through his hair and said, we will call you Ram. Wait, don't we have a Ram in the class? I don't want any confusion. It'll be Balram. You know who Balram was, don't you? Munna says, no, sir. He was the sidekick of God Krishna. Know what my name is? No, sir. He laughed. Krishna. So thereby, Munna gets a new name and he is now Balram. And this is the story of Balram, who originally belongs to a Halwai family. That means he would probably have ended up becoming a Halwai himself, which is pretty good, not bad. But then again, he was working like a servant, and after a few days his grandmother said that no need to go to the school anymore. So what you're going to do is you're going to work at a tea stall and you're going to make some money out of it. So what Balram did was he started working at the tea stall, and while working in the tea stall and while breaking the coal and while cleaning the tables, he started having a dream where he planned to escape the banks of Mother Ganga and the generations of poverty cycle and not so blessed situation that he was into, and he started nurturing that dream of his. After a few days, he said to his grandmother that he wants to go learn driving. His grandmother says, okay, fine, you can go, but there is one thing that you have to obey. Everything that you're going to earn, you're going to send it home. And he says, okay, fine, I'll do that. Now let me go learn driving. He learns driving, and then after that he gets a job in his village, Lakshmangarh, in one of the wealthiest, well-to-do family of his village. And then after some time, what happens is he gets an opportunity to move to the capital, Delhi, with his master. But I am using the word master, is that's how the book is written. It will give a more realistic touch, because it was not the relationship between a person who is working as a driver, but it was more of a relationship between a master and somebody who is a servant. So that's the word, that's the idea in this particular book. So he was working for his master, and he went to Delhi, and his madam was Pinky. So it was Ashok, his wife Pinky, and their driver, who was Balram urf Munna, Balram aka Munna, who was named by the teacher, who was removed from the school by his grandmother, who was working in the tea stalls, and then who is now the driver of Ashok and Pinky. So they all goes to Delhi, and in Delhi he learns a new way of life, the city way of life. He sees new revelations, he sees the traffic jams, the re-education system of Munna aka Balram Halwai begins. So thereby he is still caught in his desires of how he can break through this prison and how he can escape his cage just like a mighty tiger. So he starts dreaming that one day, just like a tiger, he is dreaming to escape his current situation of being a servant. And this quest for dream of getting out of this trap is getting intense over a period of time. One incident happens whereby his madam Pinky, she happens to kill a child in an accident, and they wants Balram to take the blame on himself of this particular accident. So what happens is that Pinky after that goes to the US, and Ashok, who was Pinky's husband and Balram's, I'll use the word master, now does all the bad shit in his house, and he is bribing people, he is involved in scandals, and he's not at all a good person. He is definitely a bad person, though he was at times talking nicely to Balram, but then moreover he never wanted the situation to improve. He never wanted that Balram should move out of this cycle and he should have a better life. He did not want that for Balram. And thereby what happens is that Balram sees everything, how he is carrying the bags with all the money and giving it to some people or the other, to the politicians, and like this time passes by. Now I am skipping a lot of the part in this book, and I am coming to the chapter whereby he is initially he does not speak with any other drivers. He don't like them, and he don't like the way they talk about their masters. They are involved in not so good to do things, and eventually he gets into stuff like that, and eventually he starts becoming like his colleague drivers in this particular case. So when the masters go to whatever work they're doing, these people, they used to chit chat, and Balram is now not anymore a loyal son or loyal to his master anymore. He is not good at his job. So ultimately there comes a situation where Balram has to choose whether he wants to kill his master on the left hand side or the right hand side. He do not want to kill him. So on one side he thinks that your father wanted you to be a man. On the other side he thinks that but your father wants you to be an honest man, of course. On one side he thinks that his wife killed the child on the road. On the other hand, he thinks that Mr. Ashok does not hit you or spit on you like people did to your father, so he has an excuse. On one side, he thinks that life in city is already demanding a lot of money and he's not saving. On the other side, he thinks that you're still making good, you're still making 4,000 rupees a month. On one side, he is thinking that even looking at the way, or even the very fact that Mr. Ashok, who was his master, threatens your family, makes your blood boil, and you can't take it. He was about to get, there was a conversation about him, about the marriage of his driver, and the way his master talks, the way Ashok talks, is not the best way to talk to anybody. So his words about marriage, about how the situation of female, how he is speaking, is not the way to talk. So it is already boiling, making his blood to boil. So he is not okay with the way he is speaking about his family. On the other hand, he is thinking, remember what happens in the village if somebody does something to their master, or if somebody does anything wrong, the entire family will be at risk. So they might harm your entire family. So the left hand side versus the right hand side, whether to kill, whether to break the cage and move out of it or not, what to do, he is in a dilemma situation. So in this particular situation, one day his master again takes a bag and he goes to an office, and meanwhile what Munna aka Balram does is he visits every single bookstore, he reads a part of the book and then he flips and continues reading free books. And what happens is a situation whereby there was a situation whereby he says that he probably imagines it in his head, he was thinking about it in his head, and you were looking for the key for years, but the door was always open. He closed the book. That's called poetry. Now get lost. Now he asks the person that what should I do? What should I get out of this trap? And all these things, finally the conclusion was he decides to kill Ashok. He decides to kill him, and what he does is he kills him. After killing him, he takes the money, he flees to Bangalore, and Bangalore, which is the IT hub as well, he thinks what he will do now. So he gets an idea. In all these IT companies, there needs to be vehicles to do the pickup and drop service for all the people who are working in the IT companies. So what he does is he goes to the Toyota showroom and dealer, and then he says, as soon as he reaches, he says that, may I drive your car? Then the person there, he looks shocked, what? And then he says, oh, I meant, may I rent your car? So there comes a word that once a servant, always a servant. So that is the thinking process. That is the way he thinks nowadays. He went, and the first thing he said is, may I rent your car? No, the first thing that he said was that, may I drive your car? So that it has always been like that. The cycle is always bringing him down. So what he finally does is he finally rents the cars, and then he starts his own company, the White Travel Company. So it's the White Tiger Travels, and then he ends up calling the White Tiger Travels, and he ends up calling every single IT hub firms that, do you need people for pickup and drop services? And then one day, one female, she responded that, no, you are already too late, because we all have pickup and drop services. So what he does is he thinks, what would his master, what would Ashok do if he was in this particular situation? So he takes a bag and he goes to the police station, he bribes a policeman, and what he does is, after 2 days, call back the same lady again, and he was shocked to hear that there was a raid, as a result of which her previous services got cancelled, since the drivers, they did not have a driving license. Now what happens is, he said, oh, I'm so sorry to hear that I offer you my services of White Tiger Travels. And she asked, oh, your driver have this license and all these things? Oh, yes, definitely, you can call the police and you can confirm. And she does exactly the same. She calls the police and she confirms that, okay, everybody has a license, and thereby he gets the job. The deal is closed, and he is now doing the pickup and dropping service for that particular firm, that particular company also, who refused him 2 days back because he bribed the policeman, and all these things happened. Then there is a final incident whereby the same thing happens. There was another murder. There is a person, Muhammad Asif, and what happens is, he was driving, he was dropping female working in the IT sector, and then on the way there was an accident and a person on a bicycle, he was killed. As a result of which, what happens is that the person who died, the person who was killed, his brother was there, and his brother was saying that this is the person who was driving the cab, so you should arrest him and there should be an FIR. So what Asif does is Asif calls his now Asif is working, okay, because this person who has a taxi firm now was once a murderer. Now he does not treat anybody with the same relationship of a master and a slave. He treats like the employer and the employee. Okay, so now I will use the word that Muhammad Asif called his employer and he said that there's an accident. What his employer, once a murderer, says is that once a murderer, always a murderer. So what he says is that call the police. He said, what? Should I call the police? Yes, you call the police. And then there arrives the police. The person who is already dead, the person on the bicycle, his brother says that you file the FIR, and what the employer says, what Munna says, aka what Balram says is that let's go to the police station, and everybody goes to the police station. Now what happens at the police station, it was already late, so he gets a cup of coffee and the assistant commissioner comes, and after that he says that, see, you know there was no headlight on the vehicle, right? So and he made the situation in such a way that because there was no headlight and because it's too late and because what's the crime, he asked what's the crime, and he said that my brother death, that is the crime. And this person, he pointed the finger at our you can say Munna, or he pointed the finger at Balram that you should arrest him. Why? Because there's a small little thing that I missed. Why? Because this person, Balram, he had said Muhammad Asif that he should first drop and then come back, because his prime job was to drop everybody their home. So even though the accident happened, he did not send Muhammad Asif to the police station. In fact, the employer himself went to the police station that you want to sue somebody, you should fight the case with me, and this person should drop these people home first. So that is what happened. So here you had the employer versus the person who died, his brother and the police commissioner, and the scenario which was pretty much clear that nobody is filing an FIR. So this poor boy, he goes home and he says that I will call the papers, I'll call the lawyers and everything, and then he goes home and nothing happens. And after that, what he does is, the case was over, everybody goes back to their home, and after some days he takes an envelope, he goes to the home of the person who died because of that accident, and he says that I have seen your another son. One son is already dead, so I have seen your another son. He is a very brave boy, so I want to employ him as a driver in my organization. And he also offered them the money. So he kind of settled the case in that way, and though the mother was not accepting the money, but the father, he said that at least you are a man enough to come. So that is why he was like, the settlement was finally done. So that's the summary version of the story in a way, and then this book ends with, I'll just tell you what's the ending of this particular book. He said that he was never interested in driving. However, now he has a driving business. Tomorrow he might go into the real estates and things might follow like that, and whatever comes with the flow. So that was the thing. And he sometimes think, what if one day, this is the last page, okay, so what if one day a man in the uniform come and then he points a finger at me and says, time's up, Munna. Yet, even if all my chandeliers come crashing down to the floor, even if they throw me in the jail, have all the other prisoners dip their beaks into me, even if they make me walk the wooden stairs to the hangman's noose, I will never say I made a mistake that night in Delhi when I slit my master's throat. So you must have seen movies where even though somebody kills a person, the way they make the audio video stuff, the way they make the final product seems like, okay, this was the situation, so he killed. And you might not feel that, okay, this is the murderer, this is the murderer. So it's not a black kind of an image that you get. If not a white image, then probably you get somewhat like a gray image about the person. Okay, he's not 100% bad person. So somewhat like that this book tries to do with this particular character in a very realistic way at some points, but at some points the situation is a bit harsh, and the way the things are happening, the way he is treating females in some cases is also not that good. But again, fiction, so that is maybe the crux. And then we end up with this line, I will say it was all worthwhile to know, just for a day, just for an hour, just for a minute, what it means not to be a servant. So even if for a minute a person in that rooster coop gets to realize what's not being a servant, he feels that a murder is worthwhile. So that is the situation that has been described in this fiction written by Arvind Adiga, 2018 Men Booker Prize, 2008, The White Tiger. If you have watched till now, then I'm pretty much sure you did like the video, and if you did like the video, please give it a thumbs up. And you can comment below and let me know what are the improvements you want, what are the suggestions, what are the feedbacks, criticism in a way that I can develop further in the future videos. Thank you so much everyone for watching. Take care and stay blessed. Bye-bye.